I saw you on The View.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been overwhelming my past couple days. So I just went in there, did my thing. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know who Sunny Hostin was. I actually still really don't know. So I wasn't expecting necessarily for her to kind of try to ambush me in that way and attack my character in that way.
Well, it is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean,
yeah.
it is a rabies.
Sunny host just had the worst week ever. And no, it's not because of another View meltdown. Megyn Kelly roasted her like a Thanksgiving turkey. And then Joe Rogan came in swinging like it was UFC Fight Night. 2 separate shows, 1 epic humiliation. What did Sunny say that triggered this double takedown? And why is the internet losing its mind? Stick around, because this isn't just petty drama. It's a full-blown intellectual roast with extra spice.
So, I mean, The View has to be, if you average out The View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin's
You think it's deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinds.
Sunny Host
had a week that was not the kind where you sip iced coffee, scroll through Twitter, and call it a day. No, she had the kind of week where Megyn Kelly and Joe Rogan, on 2 completely different levels, managed to turn her worldview into a piñata, and boy did they swing. It all started like these things usually do, with Sunny doing what she does best. Crafting takes so elite and so perfectly polished in their distance from reality that they should be served with a monocle and a glass of Cabernet.
They're disgusting. She's Anna Navarro in your wildest imagination. You could never solo host a show. You will only ever make it as part of an ensemble, and you could never hope to achieve the success that Tucker Carlson has. So you can sit in your little cheap seats all day long and enjoy your little negative henpecking, but your careers are going nowhere, and Tucker is about to dominate in whatever space he goes to.
She didn't throw a tantrum or throw punches. No, she committed the biggest mistake of daytime TV by acting like the rest of us need to pass a Harvard admissions interview just to have an opinion. Somewhere between casual elitism and her espresso-fueled monologue, she sent out a bat signal to the universe, and Megyn Kelly saw it.
But it's fun to watch. It's just fun to watch them.
It's good entertainment.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Well, they're just, it's interesting because I think Sunny is very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
That's sort of, I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones, don't have to name any names, who are just very dull-minded. But I think Sunny's not one of them. I think she's smart but captured.
Sure. I think she came into it with an agenda.
Of course. They do everything with an agenda.
Now, Megyn doesn't need a reason, but Sunny's the gift that keeps on giving. Megyn took one look at Sunny's latest sermon and thought, oh yes, let's talk about hypocrisy. And oh, did she, with the precision of a brain surgeon. And the attitude of someone who's been waiting all week for this moment. Megyn rolled up her sleeves and started peeling back layers of media smugness like she was slicing an overpriced avocado.
That hot mess that they air in the mornings, called The View, had to issue not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 corrections, legal corrections. 4 legal notes. We only have 3 of them on camera, but look at this.
I have another legal note.
My God.
Both Trump and Pam Bondi have denied allegations of a quid pro quo. I have a legal note.
Not to mention what they did at that debate, where once again, they tried to fact check only one side, and then when their fact checks got fact checked, they cowered. They cowered in fear. I mean, this is a pattern with them.
She didn't need to yell or rant. She simply opened the door, pointed inside, and said, "Behold the house of hosts," now with extra irony. If Sunny's brand is self-righteous enlightenment, Megyn just hit her with a blackout. Meanwhile, over on Planet Rogan, things weren't looking any brighter. While Megyn went for surgical dismemberment, Joe brought the philosophical chainsaw. You know the vibe. Mid-conversation about aliens, testosterone, and kettlebells, suddenly it's like, wait, what's with this lady on TV who thinks she's the oracle of absolute truth? Joe doesn't polish his words, and that's the point. His takedown felt less like a hit piece and more like a natural disaster. 1 minute he's talking about elk meat, and the next Sonny Host's entire media persona is face down in the metaphorical mud. He didn't have to name names or even try. The whole thing was so casual, it hurt. The disbelief in his voice, the smirk behind the commentary. It was the rhetorical version of watching someone fall while confidently strutting. Down a catwalk, Joe has that uncanny ability to turn confusion into a roast. And when he smells mainstream media nonsense, game over. He just shrugs and breaks it down like he's taking apart a faulty espresso machine. Piece by clunky, pretentious piece. And let's not forget, these weren't coordinated attacks. That's what makes it worse for Sonny. It's not like she was the main boss in a video game they teamed
get
up
it.
to
I
beat.
also hate Joy Behar. So I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird. So I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show. If the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of, like, there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of The View. I mean, they have brought in the lowest tier of the, what is it, the Y chromosome?
No, double
The
X.
Okay.
Double X.
They brought in the lowest of the double X's for that one. It's rough.
Yeah, did you watch the episode when Tulsi Gabbard got on to defend herself and Joy Behar starts panicking and going over her notes while Tulsi is refuting everything that she said?
Yeah, I mean, Joy Behar, like, again, these people have dementia. These are people who, like, should not be allowed out of the house. They have a national platform.
No, she was just a random NPC who accidentally triggered two very different but equally brutal endgame sequences. A lightning strike from two directions, and she was the lone tree standing in the middle of the field holding a metal rod labeled, "I'm always right." By the time the dust settled, Megyn had surgically exposed the double standards. Joe had rolled over the wreckage with a philosophical dump truck, and Sonny's silence had become the loudest part of the story. On her show, Megyn didn't just clap back. That would have been too easy. She dissected Sonny's entire vibe like a surgeon with a bone to pick. No shouting, no rants, just a calm, calculated takedown of everything wrong with hiding smugness behind progressive talking points. According to Megyn's rhetorical MRI, Sonny isn't offering fresh commentary. She's repeating the same condescending ideas dressed in designer outrage. And when Kelly was done pulling back the curtain, what was left was less thought leader, more self-appointed oracle trapped in a media echo chamber. The wild part? Megyn didn't even need to go nuclear. She just laid out the inconsistencies, wrapped them in sharp wit, and stepped back. She basically held up a mirror and let Sonny's ivory tower persona trip over its own reflection. A roast by way of reflection.
Whoopi Goldberg was angry when Alyssa pointed out that Trump went to the funeral of Officer Diller.
Yes.
On Long Island, and Joe Biden went to a podcast. Look at Whoopi Goldberg's reaction.
Choose what you like there, but for Republicans, it was good imagery.
Really?
1 day later, yes.
And I'm asking that because I was so offended because you know who showed up. Yeah. And he was, whether he was asked or not. This
But he
is a
was
man
invited.
who didn't care what happened to the officers on January 6th.
She promotes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris every day on that show. Trump wasn't supportive enough of the cops who were, yes, in danger on J 6th. How does that explain their behavior on a daily basis toward Harris, toward Biden, toward AOC, toward all of the left, including their own show, Sonny Hostin? The hypocrisy is rank.
Meanwhile, over in Podcastopolis, with a population of 12 million downloads per episode, Joe Rogan was living his best unbothered life. Hunting elk, talking about space monkeys, casually reshaping the cultural zeitgeist, the usual. But even in his universe, someone couldn't help but mention that The View had blessed the world with another steaming pile of condescension. Enter Joe's turn. Now Joe doesn't do strategy, subtlety, or even table manners most days. What he does is call out nonsense like he's swatting flies, with the detached energy of someone who's seen too many stupid takes and has lost the will to pretend. So when Sonny's usual elitist sermon floated into his orbit, he didn't yell. He just looked confused, as if the idea of someone on daytime TV deciding who's intellectually worthy to speak was so strange it needed to be studied under a microscope. Joe didn't just roast the show, he mocked the entire idea of The View, functioning as anything remotely intellectual. In his world, it was like calling a clown car a think tank. He marveled at the panel's dynamic, the constant interrupting, the relentless performance of outrage, and the way Sonny seems allergic to perspectives that don't come pre-approved by a faculty lounge. And while Joe didn't take the time to dissect line by line like Megyn, he brought out a sledgehammer, laughed, and reduced the entire building to rubble.
You get people thinking, like, if you could stop Hitler by any means necessary, wouldn't you stop Hitler? And so they equate Donald Trump with Hitler and go, here you go, this is our modern Hitler. Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it, because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said it's
on television.
Not out of spite, but out of pure amused disbelief. What makes this double roast fascinating isn't that it happened, but that neither of them planned to target Sonny specifically. She was just a natural endpoint of their separate rants. Megyn took the scalpel, Joe took the mallet, and somewhere in between, Sonny's credibility got cut open without anyone even inviting her to the autopsy. It wasn't a debate. No one called her up. There were no panels, no rebuttals, and certainly no polite emails. Just two people on very different shows watching the same train wreck and reacting in their own brilliantly sarcastic ways. Megyn's approach was clinical. The lawyer came out as she put Sonny's track record on trial. The charges were chronic condescension, unlicensed superiority, and aggravated eye-rolling. She contrasted Sonny's performative wokeness with the real-world consequences of preaching from a penthouse. And when she was done, she didn't drop the mic. She handed it back with a look that said, "You might want to sit this one out." Joe looked like a man trying to explain algebra to a cat. Baffled, amused, slightly entertained, but mostly concerned for the future of human conversation. He treated The View's entire setup like an alien artifact, fascinating in its absurdity, and impossible to take seriously.
Donald Trump will be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States, yay, on January 20th of this month. Not everyone's happy about it, and many people would like us to be more focused on the insurrection that he personally unleashed, if you ask them. As we discussed earlier, they think it's as bad as, like, the Holocaust, and you don't have to take my word for it. Here is Sonny Hostin.
January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery.
Yeah, the January 6th is right up there next to the Holocaust and slavery.
Here's the twist of the knife. Neither Megyn nor Joe had to exaggerate. They just had to observe Sonny's behavior, her tone, her self-satisfied smirks. Those were the real punchlines. When real life hands you satire, all you have to do is comment. The internet naturally had a field day as clips of both shows exploded on social media. Fans of Megyn cheered her precision. Rogan's audience laughed loudly at his bewilderment, and the overlap between the two audiences created a Venn diagram of pure mockery. All aimed at Sonny, who by this point must have wished her Wi-Fi would. Go out. What's even more poetic is that Sonny didn't respond. Not a word, not a tweet, nothing. Which made the whole thing even more powerful, because when two media giants tag team your brand like it's the last donut at a police convention, silence just confirms the sting. The memes were relentless, because for once, no one was angry, just wildly entertained by the unraveling. And if you zoom out, the whole thing speaks volumes. The disconnect between media elites and the rest of the world is no longer subtle. It's a Grand Canyon. Sonny Host became the symbol of that gap. Not because she's uniquely terrible, but because she represents the polished, performative, overly academic distance that people are completely
Well, their audience is not really their audience. Their audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. I don't know if you've ever seen audiences before for TV shows, but a lot of them are paid. They're paid to be there. So, because they have to guarantee that there's going to be people there. So there's services that you hire. And when a show gets really, really popular, like Letterman or something like that, obviously it has its own fan base.
Right.
Those people will try to get tickets before anybody else does. And in that case, they probably don't need to use a service anymore. They just get actual fans. But arguably, like, the real fans of The View that are like, oh, these ladies are on point, most of those people can't leave the house.
Megyn Kelly took advantage of the moment and Joe Rogan capitalized on it. But really, Sunny served it on a silver platter like she always does. Megyn went highbrow, surgical, stylish, and unforgiving. She peeled back the layers of intellectual dishonesty and showed just how much pretense goes into Sunny Host's brand of commentary. Her analysis wasn't petty, it was precise, like a roast delivered by someone who's read every book on your shelf and knows exactly which ones you never finished. Meanwhile, Rogan went full campfire mode with laughs, head shakes, and that baffled look that screams, is this real life? His audience doesn't need footnotes or dissertations. They just want the nonsense called out with a laugh and a shrug, and that's exactly what he gave them. Together, without ever coordinating, they managed to turn Sunny Host into the cultural punchline of the week. The most devastating part? It wasn't a mistake or a scandal. It was just her being herself, talking like usual and accidentally reminding millions why they've stopped trusting TV talking heads who think nuance means my opinion is law. No need for a rebuttal, no counter narrative, no Twitter apology tour. Just two media titans who saw the same smoke and brought flamethrowers from opposite directions. It was like watching a luxury yacht hit by two rogue waves from different oceans. Megyn's sharp precision from the east and Rogan's blunt force of tsunami from the west. And in the middle stood one very drenched Sunny Host, still holding a script
Joy
no
Behar
one's
went
reading.
after Joe Rogan on The View, and he fired back spectacularly.
You're worried about losing your job, and you're worried about podcasts taking over, and who's the source of news. And we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us, and he won. And this is and Joe Rogan believes in dragons.
The fallout? Let's just say The View suddenly had a lot fewer retweets that week. The public interest dipped, not in a dramatic ratings crash, but more like the quiet silence that follows a magician being exposed. The spell is broken. The illusion are gone and no one's clapping. Megyn moved on as she always does. Joe went back to conspiracy theories and DMT jokes. But Sunny? Well, she's probably still sitting at that round table wondering how a throwaway monologue ended with her getting philosophically suplexed by two people who barely bothered to mention her name more than once. That's the beauty of it. They didn't need to say her name 10 times. The audience connected the dots, the satire wrote itself, and the roast came with a side of extra irony. You could almost hear Ivy League diplomas being torn in half somewhere. Not because education isn't valuable, but because no one wants to be lectured by someone who treats differing opinions like a bad smell. Sunny's brand of moral superiority might have worked back in 2016 when audiences tolerated smugness wrapped in lipstick and pearls, but now it's open season, and Megyn and Joe are just the opening act. So the next time Sunny Host looks into the camera to enlighten the masses with another sermon from Mount Smugmore, maybe, just maybe, she'll remember the week 2 media giants from totally different galaxies decided her ivory tower needed a few cracks. No debate, no panel, no shared stage. Just a good old-fashioned intellectual clobbering from the comfort of 2 separate studios. And somehow, it was the most satisfying takedown no one saw coming. Sunny didn't need to be shouted down or interrupted. She just needed a mirror held up by Megyn Kelly and a laugh track provided by Joe Rogan. And just like that, her entire brand of condescension got publicly refurbished with sarcasm, disbelief, and a splash of shade and flair. Sometimes the loudest humiliation is the one that doesn't need a response.